Hi there, my name is Michael Hill, and I'm here with Canine Chronicle TV for our Influencers series, sharing about dog professionals and the people who made them who they are. And today I'm here with Dan Buchwald. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure. So, why don't we start at the beginning? How did you first get involved in the sport of dogs?
All right. Started as a young kid of 5 when we had no dogs. We lived in the city in Sao Paulo, which is a big metropolis like New York City. And we went visit friends on the suburbs, and they had a shepherd. And I was like a 5-year-old little kid. And this shepherd came running to greet us. And he jumped on me, and I fell on my back, and it scared the living hell out of me. And I was
Understandably.
really, really scared of dogs. A few years later, my parents says, we got to do something about this, and they gave me a boxer. And that dog
Mm,
came into my life and obviously took care of the fear of dogs that I had and changed my life around.
wow.
Um, we went to a dog show with him. He wasn't really a show quality dog. It wasn't all that great, but you go to shows to the show, you see all the energy that's going on there, and say, oh gosh, I want to be a part of this. I don't even know what it is, but I want to know more about it.
Yeah.
So it really became as a family affair because my mother loved dogs as well. Um, and with my uncle, my mother's brother, we started a small breeding program with boxers. And
Wow.
it all started. We would go to dog shows, and this was in Brazil, and I would look around and try to see what people are doing, try to emulate them and the little
Sure.
mannerisms and so on. And the other thing that also helped a lot is that my parents had really a passion for traveling.
Mm,
And in the early 70s, they took us to America for the first time. We
mhm.
went to Disney World, and we just happened to, that was in January, at the Florida Circuit was going on at the time. And we went to the Greater Miami Kennel Club Dog Show. And
Mm,
gosh, that was like, wow, it's a whole different level of existence. And
sure.
from then on, it was just, I want more. I don't even know what it is. I just want more. I want to be a part of it,
Wow.
and so on. So that's how it started.
Amazing. Was there anybody in Brazil in particular that kind of took like a mentorship role to you and your family with the breeding program or showing?
Yes, there was this lady. She was a veteran judge, very very successful breeder of English setters. Her name was Filomena Ballo.
Hmm.
And she used to just sit ringside with me and talk dogs with me. And she kept me very grounded. She gave me great advice that I still remember to these days. We would sit ringside, and I would say, oh, look at that dog, how beautiful it is. And she says, you think it's really great? I say, yeah. So okay, then give me 3 faults that you can see on him. And then the
Hmm.
reverse side, say, oh, I don't care for that dog. Says, really? Then give me 3 virtues because they all have it. And that
Mm.
keeps you grounded. Say, okay, let's find the real dog here. Don't let the emotions take over.
The snap judgment.
Evaluate them with reason.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing. Still today, you got to find virtue on the lesser dogs. You got to know the faults of your better dogs. That allows you to show them better. That allows you to
Mhm.
understand them better. And also where those faults came from, how important they are, and same with virtues, how important they are, and how can they influence the next generations when it comes to breeding. So
Mm. That's
I'll say
great
this.
advice.
Yeah, ultimately, everything we do here, whether you're uh, judging, handling, whatever it is, the backbone of the sport, always the breeders. And I was fascinated by remarkable breeders from the past that allow me to learn from them and talk to them and so on. But you always look at the perspective of what's going to happen in the next generations. How important is a fault or a virtue in the context of the big picture? Is this a fault that's just a little detail that doesn't happen often in the breed, or is this a fault that keeps going on generation after generation?
Mm.
So if you find, let's give an example, beagles that in the 70s and 80s used to have really severe short upper arm and forward, no return of upper arm. You find one with a great upper arm and nice forechest. That's a very important virtue. because it's necessary in the breed and you don't want to go back
Needed.
to those days, and so on. And you can follow that pattern to several other breeds, like you name it. Boxers that
Right.
tending to be too long, you want to favor the square build and so on. So
Yeah.
her words still ring true in my ears every time when I look at a dog. Says, "Oh, well, these are important virtues. These are important faults. How do they
Yeah.
keep you grounded?"
That's a great formula, and it's for anybody
Yeah,
learning dogs. How
yeah.
did your career progress from working with your family? Did you work for any handlers? Did you move? What happened next?
I actually didn't get a chance to work for handlers, but I did have a chance to work with several breeders. In Brazil, at the time, there was only one big professional handler, and his name was Jaime Martinelli. Great dog person, very talented. I did get to assist him on weekends, but many of my mother's friends and my parents' friends were breeders, and they allowed me to show their dogs
Mm.
and to go to their kennels and learn how to trim and how to train and so on. And that was a great experience because you go every step from whelping box to the championship. And I
Yeah.
love that.
And
So
that's hard to get. That's a hard, thing to access for a lot of people, is to find, those experiences that are not so public, like the dog show.
yeah, and the cool thing about being in Brazil is that you have to learn with a variety of breeds. You cannot be, the boxer guy or the Doberman guy. It's everything. They need you. You go there and you show, and sometimes you don't really know what you're doing, but you try to learn about it. And this one handler in Brazil, Jaime Martinelli, at the time that I was starting to branch out and try to do other breeds, um, he had bought and brought to Brazil the litter sister to Marienburg's Mary Hartman. Her call name was Mimi. I don't really remember her registered name, but I had the chance to show that, and that was really an awesome experience to get this
Wow.
dog. Was trained by Mo Miyagawa, comes to Brazil, and I get to show her every now and then. That was really, really cool.
It's like once you touch a dog of that quality, it kind of changes your feel and your way
Yes.
of moving about the dog show.
Yeah, and it's funny because at that time I also had a very good interaction with a judge who was a terrier handler, retired and became a judge, Tom Gately. He came to
Hmm.
judge in Brazil, and I had at the time a friend of mine had just come back from England, and she brought a smooth fox terrier from Numeli, and I got to show to Tom Gately, and he said it's a lovely dog, but the trimming is all wrong. And I probably was like a 15-year-old kid. And I said with my broken English, well, will you teach me what's right? And I kid you not, this guy who's this top handler, now at the time was a top judge in America, came to Brazil and he says, we are not going to dinner after the show because they usually have this judges dinner and so on. He says, I want to
Hmm.
show that kid how to groom a smooth fox terrier. And he did. He
Wow.
spent good 45 minutes to an hour with me, teaching me. And I'll tell you, I will never forget that. I'll never forget the smile on his wife, Kay Gately, when I did the other side of the dog. And he says, yeah, that's how it's done, kid. I remember
Wow.
that so well. So
That's
that was one of
amazing.
those things. We're very lucky. Yeah.
You can tell it left an impact for sure.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I want to
So,
make him proud. Yeah.
and then when you, after, you're kind of getting into this and you're feeling like this is what you want to do for your career and your life, how did that progression happen for you?
Well, in the early 90s, as the economy in Brazil was never the most steady, and my life just wasn't fit to do the things I wanted to do in Brazil. I was married. I went through a divorce, and there was this one time I was returning a videotape, a video club, and I got robbed with a gun in my head. And I said, you know what? This is it. I'm out of here.
Hmm. Yeah.
I went to the video club right next door to it. There was a travel agency. I got myself a one-way ticket to New York, and I left. And I started my life here, and it was great. I had the chance to I already knew from Brazil. We had as our guest while we lived in Brazil. We had Demara Botha come to Brazil, and she's probably the biggest influence I have in
Mm.
handling because she has so much knowledge. She witnessed so much of the sport of dogs, and she's so kind and generous with her knowledge, willing to share. And she had this serenity about it, that you really got to be very good about what you do and very self-confident of what you know and what you don't know to share it the way she did. And she was always a mentor, an inspiration, and I cannot thank her enough for all the life lessons, not just professional, but life lessons she gave me.
Yeah.
So when I moved to America, I talked to her a lot, and she helped me a lot and guided me in the right direction, I want to say.
Helped you get established and start this next chapter.
Right, but never forget to go back and read your standards, understand what these breeds are developed to do, and
Yeah.
promote the dog, don't promote yourself. Make the dog the object of the whole thing that we're doing there. It's the dog, that making sure that he's happy, respect him, respect his boundaries and his limits, and within those parameters, make him look stunning. And it's all about the dog, not about you. And I love that.
Yeah,
I
that's
love that.
great. I love how you
When
had
I
that ready right there. Like you heard it today. Like you could hear that that was
Oh,
put
that's
in your
this little
brain.
Demra boat on my shoulder talking to me all the time when I'm in the ring. That's that. She's just wonderful. What a
Awesome.
gift. What a blessing to have cross paths with her.
Wow.
Again, yeah.
Were there any highlights for you in your career as a professional? Like if you have to look back on it, what would you say stands out to you the most?
Well, yeah. There's a couple. Two things. First, because we bred boxers in Brazil, and they did some breeding of boxers in America early on. I remember when I first came to America. Actually, it was 1975 or 1976. The Boxer National used to be the day before the Garden. And I got to see the National. I got to see Stan Flowers showing a dog called Sawgrace Minuteman, and his little brother shown by Jane Forsyth, Sawgrace Market-Wise. And both dogs became super dogs. One went to Australia, the other was a multi-best in show winner here. And I always wanted to have a homebred of mine be a part of American Boxer Club, be good enough to for me to be proud of. And a few decades later, that happened. That one of my homebreds was the first boxer ever to go winner's bitch at the national from the bred by class. So I
Wow.
hold that as a huge accolade. I just wanted to be there, and I believe a little bit of history was written in that sense.
You had the vision.
And as a handler, I got to show a smooth fox terrier bitch maybe some 20 years ago. Her name was Gracie, Aim High Avalon Renaissance. I finished her in December at the Bay Colony Cluster in Boston. Her very first show as a special was in Buffalo, New York in January. I had a couple of boxes I wanted to see if I could put a major on because I wanted to finish them, and I brought her along just to see what happens. And her first show, she went best in show. And from then on, it was a rocky start, but I'll tell you, she finished her show career with 250 Group 1s and 40 best in
Wow.
show.
That's quite a
And
ride.
at the time, she held the record for the top winning smooth bitch of all time. She actually tripled the record. And I wasn't really known in America for anything terrier, even though I have done several smooths in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to do that, to go against some of the top terrier handlers and all breed handlers, and to make a mark. I remember two shows that are unforgettable. One was the Kennel Club of Philadelphia, where she won Best in Show under Betty Ann Stenmark. That was like, wow, all the top dogs were there. She made no mistakes, meaning Gracie, the Fox Terrier, she made no mistakes. She showed for me like Demer would be proud of. And that was a great win. And her 40th Best in Show, which happened before the end of the year, but I thought would be a good time to retire on top. And this was a judge from Australia. There was a big lineup of dogs, really lovely dogs in the Best in Show lineup. And I guess in Australia, they do things a little different. And instead of just coming to the center of the ring and pointing the ribbon, he just asked me to go around the ring one more time. And as I was going around the ring, he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is my best in show." And I thought to myself, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the top of her career. We are going home after this." And
Wow.
she retired on top, and that was wonderful.
It's a good thing that judge taught you how to trim a smooth in Brazil, huh?
No kidding, huh? Tom Gately. Yep.
I love it. So looking back on this whole progression, you can tell there's some people who really had an impact on you as a person and also as a professional. What are some things that you try to convey or keep in mind when having conversations or spending time with someone who's newer to the sport?
Mm.
You know, whether they're just, you know, an owner handler or they're looking to make this their full-time career.
Yeah.
What are some takeaways that you kind of lead with?
Well, for me, the two most important things. One, we do this to preserve our breeds. We are not reinventing them. We are not trying to create new breeds. We are trying to preserve them. The only way you can preserve a breed is to, one, understand where it came from, at what time, at what place, for what reason. Read the standard. Never forget that form follows function, and understand the breed rather than just try to do some generic job. Go deep into the several layers that happened before you can even walk into the ring. Understand the proper grooming, the proper conditioning, their temperament. A temperament of a beagle is not the same as a temperament of fox terrier. Understand their way of operating, and that is, to me, crucial, because we are there to promote our breeds and preserve our breeds, not to promote ourselves. And then the other thing that I find crucial, it's a really unique line of work that we have. We are not like mechanics or any other line of profession that you can work from 9 to 5 and put everything away and come back the next day. You're dealing with animals with emotions, with needs, and you got to learn to respect that. So the way I do it, and I'm not saying that other people do it because they do it different, they do it wrong, but for my way of doing, I want to have a small operation. I want to be one-on-one on my dogs. I want to see how they're feeling, how they're doing, what they need, work with them. At the end of the day, have them sit on the couch with me and watch TV together, or just be dogs, be part of the family, and so on. That's how I do it, and I like it that way. My dogs respond well. It's a small lineup, and they're happy. So
Right. And
that's
it
how
sounds
I
like
do
you're
it.
happy that way too. That's a big point.
Gosh, I met, when I moved to America, I had the chance to meet, through a mutual friend, Roger Karras, who at the time was the president of ASPCA, and he was the voice of Westminster. He was the one who narrated Westminster. And he coined this phrase, dogs aren't our whole life, but they make our life whole. Yeah, they do. They do. And actually, they are my whole life. What can I say? It's a lifestyle. You don't get into this to just, make money, retire, and never look at a dog again. Maybe
Right.
when I retire, I will not want to be waking up at 4 a.m. And be in a line to get into Westminster or whatever, but I'll always have a dog by my side.
Yeah. You might sleep in, but you'll still have the dog. That's for
Hell
sure.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, Dan, thank you so much for the time today and sharing your story. It was awesome to see these different layers of
Okay.
influence that they have had on your life and how you're able to kind of carry that forward to the next generation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
It was my pleasure. Have a great day, Dan.
All right. Bye.